IPF is not the juggernaut of powerlifting that you might think it is, especially if you're in the IPF echo chamber. I say things like the majority of powerlifting when referring to the IPF being different than the majority of powerlifting for a reason, and I'm going to explain what that is. The IPF has this illusion of being bigger than they are, mainly because up until recently, they had a monopoly on international drug-tested competitions that happen regularly. Which that's changed now that the USAPL's international affiliate that does better, more often drug testing is starting to have international competitions. But let me crunch some numbers for you, because international powerlifting is actually less representative of powerlifting than powerlifting in the United States. So if you go on to Open IPF and look at everybody that's competed in the IPF ever, you'll see a number a little over 200,000. And then you go to Open Powerlifting, the number of people that have ever competed is 600,000, just about. So it almost looks like the IPF is 1/3 of powerlifting, but that's not the majority, and that's not even the actual case. One, the IPF still lists people that competed in the USAPL when they were under them, so this bumps their numbers up a bit, even though the USAPL is no longer a part of the IPF. And that's important because at the time the USAPL was in the IPF, they literally accounted for more than half of the IPF. And that also doesn't account for people like me that did compete under the IPF but moved to other federations, so now we're essentially not allowed to compete in the IPF even if we wanted to, even if we were still natural, etc. So if you look at the numbers without them being inflated from having the USAPL lifters on there, cuts it in half. That's right, 1/6 of people that have ever competed in powerlifting would compete under what is now the IPF. But let's take it a step further and show how important American powerlifting is in relation to the IPF. Outside of the IPF, you're not married to a single federation. No other federation cares if you bounce back and forth. So unless you're in the USAPL specifically and just want to stay married to a single federation for some reason, the majority of Americans bounce back and forth between federations. They don't do a single one. This is what I'm referring to as the majority of powerlifting, because since no one's married to a single federation, all of the federations combined are what make up powerlifting in America. In 2026, there have been just under 15,000 people to compete in all of powerlifting so far. Only around 3,000 of those have been under an IPF affiliate, and around 700 of them were Powerlifting America. And 9,000 of those powerlifters that have competed this year were competing in the United States. I know in the IPF echo chamber, where everyone thinks of the IPF as powerlifting as a whole, all you're fed is IPF stuff. It might seem like the IPF is bigger than it is, but it's really not. It's kind of the black sheep of powerlifting as a whole. Even if you want to only count WADA using drug-tested powerlifting federations, because every federation has tested and non-tested outside of the USAPL and IPF, but the USAPL has more rigorous standards than the IPF, and they're just as big as the IPF. There's nothing wrong with competing in the IPF, but they're not the juggernaut that it seems like. And it's really annoying when people say things like the strongest female in the IPF is the strongest powerlifter. No, the majority of powerlifting is pretty far removed from the IPF, and the IPF is not a representation of what powerlifting as a sport is, because they have so many different rules than what the majority of powerlifting does.